welcome to
Red, White, and Bi, the political podcast for critical thinkers. I'm Hannah.
And I'm Ash.
And we're coming at you with episode 29.
250 for anyone who is from the D.
Yeah. I guess in a way, aren't we all? Is that a local commercial to anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Mr. Allen's was like, I'm gonna call it an urban clothing store, and I'm only calling it that because the area code and the I'm just gonna say vocal black voice that the commercial cartoon character guy used. He was a white little cartoon guy. I don't think you could run those commercials today.
No.
Do they still?
Not that I've seen, but I haven't had cable in many moons.
Anyway, they were so pervasive that anyone who grew up in the Metro Detroit area will know, as soon as you say the number 29, someone else has to say, or 2 for 50.
Yes, that's the way to do it.
Mr. Allen's clothes.
Mr. Allen.
Okay, so speaking of Mr. Allen, Ash, let's talk about one of your favorite topics. We all know how much you love tariffs. Dun, dun, dun. So what happened with tariffs this week?
What had happened was the majority of the Supreme Court did their job, and even my favorite, typically, Supreme Court Justice, Clarence Thomas, let me down by saying, maybe Trump can do his thing. Like, maybe there's a wrinkle where he can tax Americans all on his own unilaterally. But bottom line is, Supreme Court, all but 3 justices said, hey man, tariffs are taxes, and taxes can only be levied by Congress.
Because Congress has the power of the purse.
Yup. And as much as people might say that there's only 3 of, Trump's nominees that are, well, I should take that back. There's only 3 Supreme Court justices that know what they're doing, and they stood by Trump. I'm sorry, but I think that actually 3 of them are legislating from the bench. Like, they're doing exactly what I don't want anybody to do, and I'm glad that everybody else was on the same page, personally.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the last holdout, as crazy as things have gotten, and I could see a leftist catching snippets of this and just assuming that we're Republican or aligned with Trump or MAGA or whatever. But I don't care who the president is. I don't care if it's Ronald Reagan or George Washington. Somebody, checks and balances exist for a reason, and I want the checks and balances to work. I want some accountability. If you just start making executive orders left and right, it's all fun and games until you disagree with something, right? Everyone's happy about it until someone wields it in a way you personally don't agree with. That's why we have the checks and balances, so that you can't just do that. It's not about whether you agree with them or not. It's about, is that you're right as a president to act like a dictator.
So what does Trump do? He doubles down. He says, let's do a 10% global tariff across the board. And I think you are a leftist dictator piece of shit.
So, the day this happened, I forget, was it Monday or Tuesday? I was getting push notifications about it. And then I saw that he, was not taking the ruling well and was being defiant. But then I never heard anything else. So, did anything actually change? Did he just get scolded and he's still doing whatever he wants?
Here's what typically happens. It happened to Biden during his administration. Biden tried to basically do something that negated the 4th Amendment, where they were going to monitor our bank accounts to a really scary degree.
It was $600 transactions or greater, right?
And typically, what happens when an executive order goes into effect and, does something that is unconstitutional, the Supreme Court will also strike it down. So, quote unquote, he can do whatever he wants, and he's being a baby, but it's going to be nixed by the court.
Like, when? Shouldn't it be immediate?
Well, I think essentially somebody's going to sue over it, most likely. And everybody is being affected by this. U.S. consumers are paying taxes that the president is unilaterally levying. The idea that everyone who considers themselves conservative and right-wing isn't against this shows that a lot of Trump supporters will just say anything he does is fine. They're in a cult.
Well, I mean, circling back to the point, though, like, I agree with what you said. Like, it's a tax on U.S. consumers. As a U.S. consumer, like, it affects me on the daily, and my purchases are more expensive because of his assholery. So, like, my checkbook wants to know, when is this stopping?
Essentially, it's probably going to depend on whether or not there's a lawsuit, something to bring it before the court. But to Hannah's point, we're never going to be reimbursed for this.
No.
He's, quote unquote, promising these refunds, like tariff refunds. What would basically happen is, you're going to send us another inflationary check. Mm-hmm. Really has nothing to do with anything, but it's going to devalue our currency even more. Like, that's not helpful to me.
I know that most people are going to agree with me when I say this. Like, when it affects our wallet, like our bank account, even just a few minutes ago, we were like joking around and like being funny and stuff. It's like, oh man, I'm furious. Like you said, I'm never going to get that money back. If I did get it back, it wouldn't be worth as much. And whoever has it lining their pocket right now, they get to enjoy the benefit of what they took from me.
Right. And I have
not from me, but from my cats.
Everybody in our household, mm-hmm. and our neighbors. And they run a daycare, and it's not Somali.
There are children. We see them.
Yeah, I hear them. I hate it. All that said, it brings back that question, which we know that I have my theory on it, but does Trump not understand economics? Or is he sneakily taxing all the people who, like, bow down and kiss his feet?
I think he probably feels like it doesn't affect him because he's filthy rich. Like, what does he care about economics? The economics of Trump are doing fine.
Oh, I'm sure it doesn't affect him, especially because I'm sure he's taking money from Qatar and taxpayers all the time. But you're a leftist idiot, and I hate you.
Signed
Ash.
Well, hopefully we'll get some updates on that soon. So you're saying it would take like a private company to sue?
I don't necessarily know what form it would take. Like, I think a foreign company might sue. I think maybe a business might be able to sue. Any private business that is forced to raise their prices because they're bringing in cheaper goods from another country, and you can't not raise your prices when your consumers are going to be taxed. It's everything gets put on the consumer in the end. I remember this discussion from Milton Friedman about a business tax. He says, who really pays a business tax? It's going to be your employees and your consumers. The business can't afford to, they're not going to stay afloat if they eat those heavy taxes themselves, so they have to put it on other people.
And even if they didn't have to, why should they have to shoulder it themselves? Yeah.
Yeah. The only real goal of a business should be to make a profit. I mean, they don't have a real responsibility to anything else. I was thinking about it. Actually, I made a post on social media in reference to another social media post. Really, really amazing stuff. So basically, the original poster, it's supposed to be like a funny meme page, but they always get political. And it's like, why do we have to live this life?
It's a cancer that you can't outrun.
Like, can't we just enjoy things sometimes?
Never. Politics is part of your everyday life, Ashley.
So, the original poster had said something about the average American only makes $35,000 a year. And, like, how are we supposed to live when...
What, like take home?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know when this is the case. Who knows if this is even true, because I'm sure that this person was really well researched. Anyway, so they were like, these, like, F these greedy corporations, basically. And my thought is, why are you angry at the people who pay us and not the people who steal from us?
I think that's like the big con, right? Like
Yeah.
the government is stealing from us, and they're using businesses as like a meat shield. Mm-hmm. And it works like the same way they try to say like it's the billionaires who are oppressing you and not the tax man. It's businesses who are oppressing you and not Congress. Like it's been a really effective like pick and roll.
If you and I had 35...
You might hear our son singing the song of his people in the background. It's dinner time for the cats coming up.
If you and I had 35K take home each, but we had no property tax, no sales tax, and no income tax, we'd probably be sitting prettier than we are after everything they steal from us.
I would say we probably wouldn't notice much of a difference in our quality of life. It would be like a lateral move.
And we're pretty baller, so you guys should know that's a big deal.
Yeah, I guess that means nothing to the person who doesn't know like our income, but I think about it all the time. It's 33% of my money is snatched away from me before I even get to take it home. And like this isn't news, right? Like we're all adults here, we know this, but it's ridiculous to me. It's indentured servanthood. Like, so if it's a third of my time, that's almost like 2 days of my 5-day work week that I just show up for the government. And then the 3 days I get to keep.
And explain to me how that's not slavery. They're forcing you to work without pay.
Yeah, they are. It's, like indentured servanthood. Like if for the privilege of living here, your first day and a half of your week, go to Uncle Sam, Daddy Government.
And it was true in 1964 when Ronald Reagan was stumping for Barry Goldwater that a farmer who paid into Social Security until the age of retirement paid in a lot more than he would ever get back. And imagine what they're doing to us now.
No, I know certain generations get really like heated about this and don't touch my Social Security and stuff. I wish, we've said this before, I wish so badly we could opt out because like I'm basically like we're together and basically planning our future as if Social Security doesn't exist, because if it does, it's going to be a pittance.
Yeah.
It pretty much already is. And I don't have a lot of faith that even the pittance will still be around for us. Like the generation numbers are we're in an upside down triangle. We can't support the amount of boomers that are ahead of us, and there's even less people behind us to support us. So it's like, I mean, the math ain't mathin'.
Yeah, it's a Ponzi scheme, and I just would rather keep my own money, and I'll look out for number one, and nobody else has to look out for me, but leave me the hell alone. In so many aspects of my life, that's all I want government to do.
I know somebody, and I'm not even going to get into the specifics of it, except to say that somebody brought up Hobby Lobby at work today, and they were like, oh, I know some people don't really like their politics, or I forget how it was put, but basically like I know a lot of people don't like them because of their beliefs. And I was like, I immediately interrupted, and I was like I don't care, they're a private business, they can do whatever the fuck they want. And then I realized I said fuck to the person who I think is very Christian and how do I put this? Like hair down to your waist Christian and a bunch of children. But like I'm going off topic here, but basically like people can do whatever they want. I fully believe that society and people and like culture as a whole like functions best when you don't like get your hands out of it. Laissez-faire in every way.
And you know what that reminds me of? Chick-fil-A. I don't care if you don't open on Sunday. It's probably bad for business.
It's definitely bad for business.
But if you're a Christian and you still hire gay people and you're non-discriminatory in that way, why are people not going to go to your restaurant if they love your chicken?
And listen, it's a law that you can't hire based on sex or orientation or like whatever. Like you can't employ people based on your bullshit, like whatever your like biased beliefs are. But you can turn away customers for that, or you can close on Sunday, or you can just opt not to give birth control to your employees. Like,
And I fully
whatever.
think that you should be able to discriminate against anyone for any reason, even in hiring practices. Because if you're going to be mean to your black employee, maybe it's better that you don't hire that person if you're going to be a shitbag all the time.
It's also illegal to be mean to your black employee in a singled out way.
Well, you probably wouldn't need that law if you didn't have to hire them to begin with.
I don't think that's true. I think, like, people need to eat, right? Like, you gotta put bills on the table. Maybe Hobby Lobby is the only kind of job you can get. Or Chick-fil-A or whatever.
And don't get me wrong,
But
I think
can live without your mediocre chicken sandwich.
I think if a person is qualified, you should hire them and not be a bigot. But I really don't think the government should be enforcing this because they don't know what people do. Like sexual harassment. People get sexually harassed all the time. Like, there's never been a workplace that I've worked at where I haven't been harassed because I have quite a booty. Let's face it.
It is surprising and delightful.
All that said, if it happens to me, it's probably really happening to hot chicks.
Don't say that. I will, like, without getting into the specifics, you know that a previous job I had, it was bad enough that I actually went to HR about it, and they were completely disinterested in doing anything to help me out. And that employer and ex-coworker are the reason we have a security system.
And
that person knew where I lived. They knew what I drove. They knew my schedule.
HR exists to protect the company, not to protect you. So keep that in mind. Just go to an attorney as soon as something happens.
Yeah.
All that said, we really went off on a tangent, but...
Yeah, but we were talking about tariffs?
Tariffs.
Jesus. Anyway, tariffs suck, and Trump isn't supposed to be doing them, but he still will, and your wallet hates him for that.
Yeah, we all hate him for that.
Ash, what are you drinking tonight?
I drank a no drink. I had a little bit of something I shouldn't have had because I'm having trouble with ulcers, but I wanted a little bit of bourbon, so I had some.
Ash.
I know.
I didn't even realize that, and her glass is empty now.
I'm sorry.
Tisk. I'm not one to talk. I'm sipping on Pendleton Bourbon Neat.
Get it, girl.
Thanks to my in-laws for just giving us the bottle at Christmas. I'm not really sure what was behind that decision, but we went home with the bottle.
I think my mom just knows I like bourbon, and she did us the solid. So
yeah.
Thanks, Ma. Anyway, what else happened this week? You want to talk about the AI clusterfuck?
No, but I think it's important. I have felt pretty torn on the subject of AI. Like when they were first talking about it, I was like, I don't really care. Listen, I'm just going to say something polarizing. I don't really care about artists. Like maybe your grown-up job shouldn't be designing logos for corporations. Maybe that's something a robot could do just as well as a person. And maybe that would free you up to do something with a little bit more artistic value. So like I didn't really get all the controversy at first, but I would say in the last year or so, the level that I'm seeing AI rise to freaks me out.
Yeah.
The deep fakes, especially, I think are scary. The increasing number of people in my parents' generation and our generation who can't tell the difference between like AI video and shit.
Yeah. I think they still look a bit cartoony to me.
I think I can still tell 80% of the time.
I think you're more...
80 to 90 maybe?
Yeah, you're...
But definitely there's stuff that I find out is AI and it's like, I know it's fake and I don't understand why. I wouldn't have caught it. I know I wouldn't have sometimes.
All that said, there's a company called Anthropic that has a contract with the U.S. government, and boy, are they regretting it.
Yeah, maybe we should say had a contract with the U.S. government. So, the quick and dirty here, Pete Hegseth, the...
Defense Secretary, or maybe Secretary of War if...
Yeah, depending who you're talking to, which asshole in a suit. So, Pete Hegseth, Defense Secretary, I guess was leaning pretty heavy on Anthropic. basically what they have a platform named Claude, which I think is adorable and very European and fancy sounding. Most of the services that Anthropic provides for the government run off this Claude platform. So Pete Hegseth has been leaning really heavily on them to turn over to the government AI basically that will facilitate mass surveillance and fully autonomous weapons. So these are like two things on their greedy little wish list that they want Anthropic to provide. And thankfully for the American people, one tiny little pushback against Big Brother, the CEO, who has the coolest name, I have no idea if I'm pronouncing it right, Dario Amodei, pushed back and was like, this seems quasi-legal and morally reprehensible. I'm not giving you fully automatic weapons and the power to like do mass surveillance on private citizens.
Yeah, so I saw the same thing from CNN, and then Hannah also shared a Washington Times article. So those are two sources that are on wildly different ends of the political spectrum. And when I initially saw the CNN blurb about it, I was like, Pete Hegseth is unhinged. He needs to be stopped. Because he's this guy who went to Yale and played basketball, and then later on got tattoos he thinks are badass about, his military career. But he's just a sergeant who's too big for his britches and has stupid hair, and now he's blowing up Venezuelan drug boats and spying on Americans. It's like, I could beat this guy at arm wrestling. He's a joke.
So I want to quickly read two quotes from the sources that I saw about this. First of all, the CEO, Dario, pushes back and said that he could not, quote, in good conscience meet those demands, which I think was pretty upstanding when you think about all the money that they could have stood to have made. And the sources I've seen, at least, it's not clear if it was like on moral grounds that they decided not to do this, or if like maybe the tech wasn't up to snuff yet. I don't have that information. Did you see that at all anywhere?
Actually, the company had a straight up concern with the fact that the weapons, like, you cannot make AI weapons now. They're like, AI
like it's not ready.
Is too dumb right now to do this. And then also, if you have legal concerns, it's a clear Fourth Amendment violation of the U.S. citizens' constitutional rights to just mass surveil them when they haven't done anything wrong. So what happens, Hannah?
So he, declines, says, I can't give you what you want, Mr. Hegseth. The response from Trump, I want to read this. He said, Anthropic better get their act together and be helpful during this phase-out period, or I will use the full power of the presidency to make them comply, with major civil and criminal consequences to follow. We will decide the fate of our country, not some out-of-control, radical left AI company run by people who have no idea what the real world is all about. And as I'm reading this, Ash is hanging her head and rubbing her temples. No joke.
Well, what I keep coming back to is something that Douglas Murray, a British journalist, brings up all the time, that something we see in politics repeatedly is projectionism. And so what does he choose to label this company? Radical, leftist, out of control. And it's like, that's you, bro.
Yeah, and something to harken back to what we said earlier about like Hobby Lobby and Chick-fil-A. I'm sorry, how can you label somebody as leftist when they want less government in people's lives?
Yeah.
Who's the leftist, dummy?
And at the very least, they don't want to break the law, and they know what the law is. They don't want to get themselves in trouble, and they probably don't want to be liable if somebody gets hurt because they let the government use their AI for weapons when it wasn't there yet.
Yeah. And you know that they would be the first to throw a private company under the bus if somebody got hurt because of, like, they pressure them to, like, roll out AI weapons. They say they're not ready yet. They're like, fine, put them out anyway. And then somebody gets hurt, and then the government's like, oh, Anthropic didn't tell us that it was so dangerous. So I had a little trouble bringing those quotes up because the app that I'm using right now, I go back to the homepage, and they've already updated it, the newest headline right now. In extraordinary move, Pentagon designates Anthropic as a supply chain risk to U.S. national security.
Which is exactly what CNN had gathered information saying Hegseth was going to threaten them with if they didn't comply. I'm going to call you a supply chain risk. Well, now they're labeled a supply chain risk. Oh, big surprise. These people are fascists.
It's like, they're fascists. They're not even attempting to hide it, and they're just trying to rebrand the idea of what fascism means. Mm-hmm. So I, took at least a little bit of offense to leftists calling, the Trump administration fascists at first, and, the No Kings and everything like that. Because at the time, I didn't feel like there was the evidence there. I still stand by that. I don't think that was happening at the time. I think most people on the left who throw around the fascist word don't know what it means. This is fucking fascist.
Yeah, they think it's right wing. They don't know the difference between right wing and left wing. But when I say that the government is using its power to control a private business, that action is a fascist action to take. Mm-hmm. We are not suggesting that we don't have free speech. I just said that I hate Trump and I hate Hegseth and I have the freedom to say it.
And that they're fucking fascists.
And that they're fascists. And I'm going to say also that Pete Hegseth's tattoos are gay. So I said all of these things using my free speech, and I'm not suggesting that we're living under full fascism under the Trump administration. But I think some of the actions he either takes or threatens to take are fascist. Like we saw in his first administration with 3M. He was he's like, I'm going to take control of your supply chain. You're going to have to make masks. It's going to have to mass produce them. We're going to take it over. In the end, he didn't end up doing that. But it was in part because 3M was quote unquote stepped up because of all the pressure.
Now that you bring that up, it kind of makes me wonder, obviously Trump has almost no qualifications for the job he has right now. So he doesn't have, a background in politics. He doesn't understand the Constitution or, legislation or how the country fucking runs. He's just sort of a mediocre businessman, crooked real estate mogul. So all of a sudden you throw him into this role, and he's thrown into this role coincidentally at the time of COVID, his figured habit. So he's seeing these executive actions that he had to take in a state of what people at the time were calling semi-emergency, or he's making executive actions. He's telling businesses what to do. He's greenlighting pharmaceutical products being made that are just not going through the normal pipeline. I wonder, you combine his inexperience with a first term like that, if he's just he has no perspective on how to do this job. And we always knew that, right? But maybe COVID was sort of masking it in a way, no pun intended.
No, he's giving a speech today or yesterday wherein he's teasing running for a third term.
Jesus Christ.
He's talking about nominating Ted Cruz for Supreme Court even though there's no open seat. And it's you do this shit all the time. It makes Republicans as a whole look authoritarian. Mm-hmm. And he does it on purpose, in my view, because he's trying to destroy the Republican Party. But he's power drunk. He's an idiot. And there are just so many times when he does this where I'm screaming internally, please just shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
He's an old man and he's unraveling.
I feel every day he's acting more and more like an old man. You're out of control. You're spouting racist shit at the Thanksgiving family dinner table. You keep telling stories that we've heard a million times. And you start a sentence, at location A, and you wind up way the fuck over here in location B by the time you're done with your 3-paragraph run-on. Yeah. It's embarrassing. Why can't somebody under 60 run the country for once?
And this is what's funny.
Why can't someone under 80 run the fucking country?
Here's what's interesting and in contrast to what you're saying. Ron DeSantis, I think we would have similar problems with Ron DeSantis to Trump in that I think he would be really executive order happy. And if it were me, if I were president today, I would negate all of the executive actions and try not to take a single one while I was president. And I would encourage Congress to pass a law banning them. To me, executive power is just unchecked, as Hannah points out. It should be checked, and it should not just be like willy-nilly. It
should be checked for candidates we like and candidates we don't.
Yeah, it shouldn't be like I can sign anything into law with a flick of a pen. That should not be the way that we run things. So that's a concern I have with DeSantis, but I think he's actually a Republican. Like, I think he cares about fiscal responsibility. So I don't think a lot of the executive actions that he might take would be necessarily damaging. But I feel like even in Florida, he was doing some things to car dealers with the flick of a pen that it's like, this is kind of fascist.
Yeah, I mean, how Republican can you be?
Exactly. So everybody says, Ron DeSantis, he's running Florida so great, like he's the next guy. I don't really like him that much. Rubio has his problems too, but when you're talking, Hannah, about somebody who's not 80 years old and is a fluid speaker, I feel like Marco Rubio would be a little Cubano Ronald Reagan. There would be some really nice qualities about him, although I don't know yet, and it remains to be seen how he'd really govern, because of the way that, probably for political purposes only, maybe, he's had to buddy up to this administration.
I will say, I see that he's had to kiss a little bit of ass. Like, if you make an enemy of Trump, it's a hard line to walk to save your career, even if it's justified that you didn't buddy up.
Yeah.
And I think he's handling that, fine razor's edge. I think he's handling that really gracefully. So, to me, that says that he would I think that speaks to his favor. He can navigate somebody like Trump. I think he could be very diplomatic and very balanced in the way he approaches stuff. True, your real colors come out when you are unopposed or whatever, when you're in that seat, you're in the Oval Office. But I suspect that the grace and diplomacy and the acrobatics that he's pulling right now is part of who he is and how he runs things. And
I know that what you're mentioning right now is its own kind of skill, especially in politics. But I'm always kind of asking myself this question. Is somebody like Rubio or somebody like Cruz, people who openly hated the guy in 2016 but now buddied up to him, are they people we trust? Or should we trust people like DeSantis, even though he has his flaws, or Nikki Haley or Chris Christie, who were you know what, the guy's not a conservative?
Well, the correct answer is Nikki Haley, right?
Yes.
This is
but
the
nobody likes her.
That's the answer that the teacher wants. But I don't think you need to politicians lie.
Yeah.
And I think anyone who suspects that a good politician wouldn't is hopelessly naive.
Yeah.
I think DeSantis does what he needs to. I'm sorry, not DeSantis. I think Rubio does what he needs to do to get the job done, but he still does the job properly so far.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to see what happens as we approach 2028. Will Rubio be able to distance himself at all from J.D. Vance? Or will it just be MAGA is just going to continue unchallenged?
Is J.D. Vance MAGA? Is he anything? He's just a chubby...
The reason he's MAGA is because he's a lifelong Democrat, just like Trump, and I feel like...
He's MAGA because he's on the ticket?
He's MAGA because they're Democrats on the Republican ticket. He's a fraud, just like Trump. That's what makes him MAGA.
Does he have any opinions or
Oh, he has leftist opinions.
I feel like he's just like a chubby preteen. Dad, your friends are here.
He said openly that his favorite senators were Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders.
Recently?
Yeah, and he got elected as a Republican in Ohio because Americans are dumb.
Yeah, but Ohioan Republicans, I feel like Ohioans are some dyed-in-the-wool, red-ass conservatives.
Well, he ran as a Republican and he used Republican talking points. And people are low information.
Low information, low memory.
Yeah. Goldfish memory.
Can you just think about how this is going? Can you think about these 4 years, man, when you're like ready to vote in the primary? Can you think about how this is going right now?
Before you vote for somebody for a major office, maybe you should just go to DuckDuckGo, type their name, and then quotes, and see if you like the things they said in the past few years. And if you don't vote for them.
Do you ever get that panic in the voting booth where it's like the paper's in front of you and it's like, oh my God, if I fuck this up, the whole country goes under?
I had a friend today tell me that he was voting in a different state and that he was very concerned about voting for judges because he says, these are all new. I don't know what their records are like. I don't know anything about them. He goes,
so did he vote anyway?
He said that he figured out who he was going to vote for the family court. Because of all the candidates, he was the only one with at least one child. And I was like, that seems fair.
It's pretty loose criteria, but it's criteria.
Because he didn't have any others, and that's the truth.
And listen, I'm not saying I do this, but I suspect plenty of people pick somebody, you know, like whether it's like board of trustees for your public university in your state, or, you know, whatever, like minor office, like where you're not really familiar with the candidates. I suspect plenty of people will pick based on things like gender,
Yep.
The ethnicity of your name, whether or not they just like your name, if they've ever heard of you before.
Jeff Johnson, the name you know.
Right. So like, these people, and we know this isn't news. I'm sure all of us feel like this a little bit at some point. It's like, oh, that guy's name rhymes. I'm going to vote for him.
I'll tell you what, that same friend said, with some of these people, I'm just looking at their hair and their teeth. And I said, like a dog show. Like I'm voting for Daniel the Golden Retriever because I like his demeanor.
And as you say this, the best cat I've ever met in my life, ever had the privilege to know, walked up to me and Opie, I think you would be a hell of a president.
Yes, he would.
What a man of integrity.
He'd be quiet like Silent Cal, and he wouldn't put Vaseline on his head because he's dapper naturally. We love you, Opie.
And he's always wearing a tuxedo because he's a little baby.
He's not wearing a tuxedo because he's a baby.
He's not wearing a tuxedo. He just has business pants on.
He has business pants. You know who has no business being president of any country but maybe a drug cartel is Claudia Sheinbaum.
Yeah, if you told me, let's say, and let's not even take it back that far. If you told me like in 2020, here's a multiple choice question. Which of these people are president of Mexico? Pablo Escobar, Mario Guevara, or
Claudia Sheinbaum.
Claudia Sheinbaum. I would be like, well, let's definitely not see Claudia Sheinbaum.
And I would just say that she's not very good representation of Jewish people, especially during these times when everyone hates us.
Well, and we looked it up too. So, as a sidebar, we didn't talk about this ahead of time, but I was like, who the fuck is Claudia Sheinbaum, president of Mexico? So we looked it up, and she does have like a Latin name. Well, that she has shed.
Because she was married to a guy who held the office, and he totally got ousted because he was a fraud. He committed fraud and was like driven out of the office, and she was his wife, but she doesn't want anyone to know.
Present tense is his wife, right?
I don't think.
Well, I guess it doesn't
I think
matter.
It's her ex.
But so whatever. So she had like a proper.
No, they might still
Hispanic,
be married.
Whatever. She had at one point a proper Hispanic name, but because it was associated with a crooked politician, she changed it and has now somehow miraculously achieved the highest office in her country.
So what the hell happened in Mexico this past week? It was scary.
Dude, so I feel like there's always like a low level expectation of like shady shit in Mexico. Like you go there if you're running from the law. You know, you have a weird night in Tijuana and you spend a night in a spooky jail cell. Like it's there. It's in the shadows. It's like a little like the rougher side of town, and we like are aware of that. But it's not like terrifying usually. Unless you go looking for trouble. But that all changed.
And here's the thing. Mexico, this didn't happen overnight. we were reading an article, it was from NBC, wherein this retired FBI agent named Greg Roberts said that this particular drug cartel from which El Mencho, the head honcho, was just assassinated by the military there, that he's been making this really, really dangerous for everybody progressively over decades.
So the reputation, you were saying the reputation that you think of when you think of like drug cartels, like the crazy violence you see depicted in like TV shows.
Sicario, the movie.
Yeah, like the kidnappings, the beheadings, all the like really scary cartel associated violence. Like this El Mencho guy is mostly responsible for accelerating that reputation, for like pushing the line of like danger and sadism when it comes to how the cartels are run. And it's El Mencho. He's the guy behind the reputation.
But what is crazy is the military having him whacked escalates the violence tenfold because they get pissed.
Because he trained them up. He's this badass motherfucker who, like, again, is like a sadist and like hyper violent, and then you just took him out and all his disciples are now unleashed.
And what's crazy is, according to this Greg Rogers FBI guy, he says that essentially they want the whole of Mexico to be their territory. That they're just escalating everything to say, like, hey, this is what happens when you mess with us. Like, we will blow things up. We're the scariest people on the face of the earth. But what is really going on here, because of the relationship between the government and the cartels, is anybody's guess, right? It's possible that what we were really looking at is that Sheinbaum has the guy whacked because she wants to be the head of the cartels. Like, that's what it's speculated, you know? But it all depends on who you ask.
Like, I imagine, and this is literally me spitballing after having seen a couple TV shows, but like, it's like, does the cartel run the country or does the government run the country? And I'm sure it's like a very hyper stressful like balance to try to like play that like diplomacy between the two groups. And maybe there was like a little bit of a push from the cartel, and then the government was like, the people don't believe that we're running things, and so they take out the El Mencho guy, and now like this powder keg, this like tightrope tension, all of a sudden the line has been cut, and the backlash of that tension is just like whipping across the country.
And funny you should say that, because there's a clip we would want to show you from Senator Lily Tellez from Mexico about her beloved fearless leader.
President of Mexico is furious. She's calling Mexican Senator Lily Tellez a traitor for coming on Fox Noticias with me a few days ago and saying this. Listen.
The help from the United States to fight the cartels in Mexico is absolutely welcome, and that is how the majority of Mexicans feel. The only ones who don't like that President Trump is sending help and trying to support Mexicans against the cartels are the narco politicians. That includes President Sheinbaum.
Wow, like that's super telling, and I feel like I want to remember that name and watch the headlines, because like, how can you speak that freely in a country that corrupt? I hope she lives a long and beautiful life, but I'm worried.
Yeah. Honestly, it does make you wonder, like, who's whacking everybody? Is it, you see these terrible headlines where a mayor in some Mexican city was beheaded and burned in their car. Jesus. And it's like, was that a cartel member? Was that the president? Was that them working together? We don't know what's going on. And the mere fact... Sorry. That's okay. The mere fact that we have to wonder is kind of worrisome, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, these aren't questions you want to be asking about your home.
And I'll give some credit to my brother. He called Mexico not a country, but a narco confederation. And it's entirely possible that so much of their GDP now depends on drugs that they're willing to light up some resorts and scare tourists away. You know, it's just
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what you and I were talking about before we started recording tonight. That it's always, you said it's always kind of been the convention, from what you've heard, that, you know, the cartel gets some allowances from the government as long as they don't touch, you know, these resort towns, because they bring in a significant percentage of the GDP for tourism. Like, we're not going to touch Acapulco and Puerto Vallarta and Cancun. Except this all started in Puerto Vallarta.
Yeah, so Greg Rogers, the FBI agent, said this is the cartel's way of saying we can take a resort at any time. We're in charge, not you. And to Hannah's point, the cartel doesn't care about the GDP of the country. They care about cartel money.
Yeah, they have their own GDP. They're their own organization. The country doesn't need to be doing well for them to be doing well. And in fact, like, the more chaos and the more instability, probably the better for them.
Yeah, so that, you know, according to this retired FBI agent, is their way of saying, we don't care about what you care about. We have the power because we don't care. And this is the way that we're flexing to show you that we can do anything, anytime. We're in control. And really, they are, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. Like, if the government feels like it's a flex to take out El Mencho, and then the cartel is like, fine, you want to do that? Guess what we can do? Like, we can touch your sacred cow too, and we can take down some resorts. I think that the consequences of messing with the resorts far outweighs and far outlasts the consequences of replacing a temporary leader of a cartel.
All that said, I think I'll take my chances on the executive orders by DeSantis on the Gulf of America. And if I want to go on vacation, that's where I'm going to stay.
You're going to stay on the Gulf of America?
Yeah, I'm going to stay here in the US of A for a while.
I always considered myself, I mean, it's weird, right? Like, we talk about my sort of liberal background or whatever. I can picture a time in my life where I would have taken huge offense to that whole renaming of the Gulf. Mm-hmm. I am surprised, and maybe I'm the only one who cares about this, but I'm surprised at the difference in myself when I realized what my actual reaction ended up being was pretty like, well, it's a continental name. And people who think that to call it America is United States centric are ignorant to the fact that the whole fucking hemisphere is called the Americas. It's North America, Central America, South America. America isn't exclusive to the United States. Sometimes we use it interchangeably, but this is not the point of what we're talking about. But it's interesting to me, every time Gulf of America comes up, my lack of reaction, my lack of anger to that is interesting to me in a weird way.
Do you think because it's like an executive action, it's going to be one of those things that changes with every president?
I don't expect it to stick. Maps aren't going to change. I don't think it's a thing.
If I were president, I would change it again. I would change it to the Gulf of George Michael or the Gulf of Dan Hedaya. Just because who doesn't love Dan Hedaya?
I would change it to Golf is a dumb sport. And that's what we would call that body of water from now to perpetuity.
Yeah, I would probably change it to Gulf War, motherfuckers. I don't know. First Gulf War.
Are there more than one?
Well, I guess we would kind of call the terrible things that happened in Iraq and Afghanistan recently maybe the Second Gulf War. I don't know. It's
a legitimate question. I told Ash earlier tonight in an aside conversation, like, I would call myself like the epitome of a layperson. Like, I know a little bit, but only thanks to Ash. Like, only because she passes things on to me. But in general, like, I represent every man on the podcast, and I think that's a compliment and kind of like a rose-colored euphemism for the fact that, like, I'm a pretty ignorant consumer of the news.
I was trying to tell Hannah, though, she at least gets, even if it's for this podcast, she gets push notifications from a bunch of different sources that don't agree with each other. We talk about those sources. I hate the government, so I'm not going to love everything that Trump-loving Fox News posts. And I would say that we're probably consuming more news with a fair amount of variety than most Americans at this point. She's being a little hard on herself, I would say.
I do think the different news apps is interesting to me. Like, even if you aren't political or particularly interested in the news, it's a fun and like super eye-opening, like almost game to play, where it's like you have one story and you see it told by 3 different people, and it's only in that circumstance that you see like how wildly different a tone can make you feel about a very like objective subject.
Which, by the way, we didn't intend to talk about this, but something happened this morning to that effect.
Oh?
So, the BBC, I was reading that, reported that Pakistan had attacked Afghanistan. My news sources said that the Taliban had been attacking the border of Pakistan for weeks before they finally gave in. And it's like, all I see from leftist sources like BBC are, we really love Islamists right now and we don't want to make them the bad guy ever because they have this, in my opinion, red-green alliance. So they just left it out of the narrative completely. That worries me.
Yeah, and so like zooming out a little bit, I think whether or not you care about the news or you care about politics, it can be a interesting experiment because it shows you things you maybe never realized about the way media handles objective information, and it also tells you about yourself. It shows you which source you're like more leaning towards. Like, I find myself, and I try to be really conscious of this, and I think I am, but I find myself like automatically taking a side. And it's like, okay, well, why am I taking that side? Like, what does that say about me, and what does that say about what I want to hear or what I expect to hear? And I think you don't have to give a shit about politics to find it to be a fun and very revealing and very interesting and thought-provoking thing to do. So maybe that's a challenge I throw out to you. Like, even if you don't care about the news, even if you like, I don't know why you would be listening to this podcast if you were trying to avoid the news, but maybe you do. Try it and see if you learn anything about the world or people or yourself.
Hannah lived in Japan, and because of this, I am like hyper aware of things that come up in the news about Japan.
Oh,
because
yeah,
I'm
me
always
too.
like, maybe
Such a cool place. Guys, if you get a chance to go to Japan, do it.
maybe this would be something that Hannah knows about or Hannah would think was interesting. So I just like have my radar up like a little Hannah flag whenever I see Japan. And so I saw this thing about Japanese parliament like banning all of these things related to Islam. And my gut instinct, as Hannah points out, I'll make no mistake, I am pretty open about not liking radical Islam. Wow. So I was like, I felt like wanted it to be true in a way. Like, this would be badass if true.
But you find yourself sort of like hoping it's true, and you can watch yourself hope, and you can say like, hey, I'm leaning this way for no good reason.
But my thought is, because I feel like this is a little bit outlandish, even for Japan, who might like be a little bit
we say it's a monoculture.
Yeah, like they're a little bit insular.
It's homogenized. Like if you're a white person in Japan, like you stand out in an incredible way that I don't think that most Americans would necessarily be prepared for.
Yeah, so even though it seemed possible, it did feel a little bit outlandish to me. So before I sent her this article or anything, I fact-checked it. Mm-hmm. Like, my gut was, this might not be true. Don't perpetuate this. Don't share it. Don't even send it to Hannah if you don't research it first. So I looked it up, and it was false. And I actually commented on the original post, this has been debunked. I didn't share it and say it's been debunked. I didn't want to even perpetuate it. But I feel like we all need to check that initial reaction. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a good habit to get ourselves into, and I've been trying to practice that, especially because we're communicating to you guys.
Yeah.
I feel a little responsibility, even if there's only a few of you listening. But I want to say
I think it's good practice,
Yeah,
even
go ahead.
Even if you never open your mouth even if you don't talk to anybody, if you live your whole life as a hermit, then you should have, especially then, you should have an interest in improving yourself. And I think getting in the habit of examining how you feel about a story and like what it makes you, like examining your reactions to something, it's a good habit to get into because it teaches you about yourself. And that can be a private journey that only matters to you, but it should matter to you.
Yeah, and to me, there's nothing that is more important than the truth. And isn't the truth important even when you're alone? Like, isn't knowing what is rational and logical something that can help keep us sane in a world that seems like it's constantly now about instant gratification and just distraction and who cares as long as we're like feeling good?
It's like the whole world is clickbait. The whole world is clickbait. And if you can't find a moment of stillness and learn something about yourself, it's chaos. It's all chaos. Like, you need an anchor.
Yeah. And all that said, you know, Hannah and I, we try to be rational people. We try to be honest with ourselves and each other. And so I put up a poll this week, just on my Twitter page and Instagram, and I asked everyone that might be listening and everyone that might follow us, should we continue to do this podcast?
It's thoughtful because, like, we joke about it, but like we have a very small listenership, and the podcast I love, like, I know that they were #1 in the country at this point, and I don't expect that by any means, but it's hard to know if it's okay that you're still doing something, even if no one listens to it. Is it still okay that you're putting it out there? Like, is this self-indulgent? Am I acting like a 15-year-old? Like, I'm glad you asked the question. I would have been too scared to.
Well, and my thought was, I expected maybe some trolls. I expected some negativity. Not one person gave a negative reaction. We had nothing but encouragement. There was either continue to do it, or, like, you know, with nothing attached to that, or give it some more time.
And decide later.
Yeah, and I thought, like, hey, like, people are being really nice. Like, that's pretty cool. So anybody who responded to that, anybody who encouraged us, I just want to thank you.
Yeah, and in general, thank you if you listen. This has been really fun, and even if no one ever listened at all, I think this has been a really cool journey for you and me, Ash, like, as a married couple. Like, this has been a cool project to work on with you, and I've learned a lot about myself and a little bit about you as well, and certainly a lot about the world and the way our country works. And I've had fun, and I've realized, I don't know, maybe around like episode 3 or 4 or so, that even if no one listened to it, I like doing this.
Yeah, and I like that we can say that we put our heads together and worked on a project, and even if it's just for us and the few of you who give us your time, it's been fun, and we appreciate you.
Yeah, so you'll definitely be hearing from us again, especially because we're only at 29. We can't leave you hanging at 29 or 2 for 50.
And as Hannah and I have joked in the past, she likes odd numbers and I like even, so we wouldn't know where to quit.
Yeah, have we talked about that on the show, or just?
I think we have once before that we really wouldn't know where to stop. So.
Oh, that would be a tough decision.
Well, thank you guys for listening. We have a poll question for you this week.
We kind of came up with it on the fly, and it's more like, honestly, like, for me anyway, it's a curiosity question, and not necessarily like this big, like, esoteric, like, whatever, you know, philosophical thing. I want to know, given the state of the world and the recent events that actually happened, and they're not hypotheticals, would you guys ever consider vacationing in Mexico? And I think the option should be yes, no, never again, or maybe, but I have to wait.
Yeah, because my thought is, would you do it this week?
I think
all expenses paid.
I think if somebody offered me all expenses paid Puerto Vallarta this week, absolutely not.
No, I was going to say, if she said yes, I was going to be like, I'd be begging her, stay with me.
what if it was like all expenses paid, Cancun on the other side of the country in 1 year?
No.
Oh, she's definitive. I know where I'm not taking her for a 5-year anniversary. Okay.
Please, no. I'm scared.
Let us know what you guys think. Obviously, like, Mexico's been kind of like America's, like, backyard vacation spot for a long time. Cancun, Acapulco, wow, can't speak anymore. Thank you, Bourbon. Puerto Vallarta, the Mexican Riviera, like, this is America's playground.
The Gulf of George Michael is open 365 days a year.
Yeah, but there's sharks in there.
There's sharks in Mexico. They probably have
Mexico
sombreros.
proper. Land shark. All right, guys, this has been fun. Thank you so much for joining us for 29. We hope you'll come back for 30.
Bye.
Bye.